All right. Hey, class, this is group one, doing our persuasive speeches. We're going to be timing ourselves and then sharing our times in our chat. So here we go.
Hi, I'm going to start this time. My name's Lexi, and my speech is about the continuous fight for women. My purpose of my speech is to encourage my audience to take a stand for all females and make a positive change in the way society treats and represents women. Throughout time, women have been fighting for their equality and respect. Over the decades, women have gained more rights and acknowledgement. But is the fight against women's oppression really over? In society, women are portrayed to be attractive and desirable, deeming them as objects to lust for. This negative attention creates a hypersexualization to femininity, which has not only caused emotional damage to all women, but makes them a target to sexual assault. It is crucial to acknowledge that women are fighting for their safety, their well-being, and their dignity, as they are sexualized on a daily basis. This speech will bring awareness to the struggles of women and what we as a society can do to put an end on how women are objectified. I would like to say how media plays a huge role on the objectification of women. Many would like to believe that women just portray themselves as what people like to say, slutty, and it is their own fault that they are sexualized. But from an article by Swift written in 2021, when women appeared in advertisements in men's magazines, they were objectified 76% of the time. Right now, I would like to show a little photo that I found. I didn't even have to do too much to find. I'm so sorry. I can't find the button to share my screen. There we go. Here is, I don't know if you guys can see, but I Googled men's magazines and you can see two photos of women showing off their attributes. Can you guys see it? Okay, perfect. And I believe that this is a marketing technique that, women are used for marketing and advertising by portraying them as attractive and sexual. This encourages people to draw attention to their bodies, making them seem as a symbol of sex instead of a person with brains and ideas. When society begins to see women as sex objects, it not only demeans women as a whole, but it causes many to feel as though women don't deserve respect and are only of use to please others. The second point I'd like to make is degrading and hypersexualizing women leads to emotional damage. A lot of people will say that it's a compliment to be lusted over and desired, or that girls are just overreacting. But a man with a PhD has said that we have ample evidence to conclude that sexualization has a negative effects in a variety of domains, including cognitive functioning, physical and mental health, and healthy sexual development. When we constantly depict women as sexy, not smart or capable, it creates an internalized idea to not only men, but to even women themselves that they're nothing more than their looks. Being told that you are only what your body can offer creates an overwhelming pressure to be seductive. But it does not stop here. Hypersexualization is not only emotionally toxic, but it is dangerous. And I'd like to show my second picture here of just this ad that I found, which is also sad because I found this ad when I was looking up articles to support my speech. But as you can see here, it's a video game that shows a woman making food. But in this video game, it shows violence towards women. And you could see that she is barely wearing any clothes. So it is a sexual thing. And I think that this hypersexualization, this emotionally toxic hypersexualization is dangerous to women because it creates this idea that of roughness, I think that it just creates toxicity. But sexual abuse is the physical act of oppression. People will be naive about how many women experience assault and claim that it is not an issue. Just in 1 year, 652,676 women admitted to being raped. That is not including women who are unable to or afraid to speak up. Statistics also show that less than 20% of sexual assaults are reported. This is from an article in 2021. 99% of predators are identified as male. 91% of victims are women. For women's protection, we have to take notes of these stats and make changes accordingly. So what's going on to stop abuse towards women? When will society see women more than a tool for their satisfaction, but as human beings who deserve fair treatment? The first step in change is being aware of the issue. After learning about how the media creates hypersexualization of women and terrifying statistics that prove women's mistreatment, I believe we can all agree that change must happen. It's time to come together and fight the fight for women's safety and respect. We need to start showing women for what they are, human beings that should be held at the same esteem as men, by not portraying them as something that's desired, as something that's for less, but by portraying them as somebody who can work as hard, who can have the same abilities, that have skills, that can learn, that can be more than what they have to offer, their attributes. And that is my speech. Thank you. I hope the slides went okay. I got kind of confused with the sharing my screen. But.
No, it was fine. I think you did a really good job. I think one thing that I really liked about your speech was in the beginning, you like really clearly stated your thesis and what the speech was on. And I think that kind of made it easier for us as an audience to kind of like follow along with your speech and go on with your talking points. So I think that was really good for you to kind of like clearly state what you were going to talk about in the speech and kind of lay out your thesis.
Yeah, really good speech. I really like your citations and the quotes you used. Those quotes were like really informative, right? So they persuade us. So I never really thought about that, and I never really thought about that topic in that way. Like how you said with the video games. Like I play multiple video games, like Mortal Kombat, for instance. Like all the female fighters, they're all portrayed as like this feminine, sexy look, you know. So I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, really good speech.
Yeah, I like how you use statistics, how you say that women are like kind of doing in a feminine type of way. It's kind of sad, kind of about today, how it shows how women is like dressed, how they are and stuff like that. I like how you use visual presentation as well to help out. Yeah, and all in all, I like the presentation.
Thank you, guys.
All right, let me get mine set up here. All right. Let me get my timer ready. All right, so hey class, my name is Ryan Hernandez, and today I will be talking about why the death penalty should be abolished. So for my persuasive topic, I chose the death penalty and why we should abolish it across the United States. So I first wanted to start off my speech with giving some statistics. So the death penalty was enacted over 400 years ago, and nearly 100 people have been executed in the past 3 years. And this number fluctuates between 40 to 50 people a year, which is still, if you think about it, quite a large number of people being executed by the government a year. Currently, half of the US has a death penalty legally. An additional 3 states onto that half has a government mandated moratorium period, meaning that no death penalties are going to be carried out. However, you can still be sentenced to it. I also want to talk a little bit about how politics play a role. So an example would be when Trump was leaving office, he hastily executed as many criminals as he could because he knew that Joe Biden coming in to presidency was against the death penalty. So I think talking about the politics is an important perspective to kind of state and have when talking about this topic. So the first argument I have for abolishing the death penalty would be the sheer cost of it. On average, a death penalty sentence costs 70% more than a non-death sentence. And people often argue, well, if you were to drop the post-conviction proceedings and appeals that the criminal has, it wouldn't cost as much. Well, if you were to eliminate the post-conviction proceedings and appeals by the criminal, the cost would actually still be significantly more than a non-death sentence. The reasoning I think that we should abolish the death penalty is because it would allow us to divert cash flow into other facets of the government. So for example, if we were to eliminate the death penalty, we would be able to spend more money on infrastructure such as highways, public works, libraries, and other parts of our government. Here's a quote from Amnesty International. They did a research on how much the death penalty costs. And they said in California, the current system costs $137 million per year, and it would cost roughly $11 million for a system without the death penalty. So you can see the significant change of numbers if we were to eliminate the death penalty. And all that money could go into other parts of our government, such as infrastructure, like I mentioned before. And I think that would more positively impact our state and also more positively impact our judicial system. So the next argument that people often bring up is the morality argument. People often say, well, an eye for an eye. If he killed somebody, then he should have his life taken away. The counter argument to that for me is, who's to say that we're in a position as humans to decide whose life who gets to live and who gets to die. You also have to take into consideration that the family of not only the criminal who was executed is feeling grief, but the family of the victim is feeling grief, as well as the jurors, knowing that they had a hand in the execution of somebody. You could also argue that murder and execution is a cruel and unusual punishment, which is an amendment in our Constitution. And here is a couple quotes I have from an article titled "The Moral Argument for the Death Penalty" by the Atlas Society. And this article is an article that goes into both sides of the argument. And here's a couple of quotes. So the first one is, any human life, even that of a killer, has intrinsic value, which I mentioned before. No one put us in a position to decide who gets to live and who gets to die. And any life that's living has intrinsic value. So even if someone were to murder somebody, that their life still has value, and the crime that they committed doesn't take away from that. Another quote that from the article is, society's response to a crime should not be proportionate to the crime or harm caused by the crime. And to go back onto kind of my last slide, I think that our judicial system should have consequences and standards that have been set in concrete, and it's very clear so that there's no gray area. Having the death penalty legal in half of the US states and illegal in the other half, and then 3 with a government mandated moratorium, leaves a lot of gray area for the states to decide. I think it should be federally abolished so that no states can have a death penalty. Moving on to my next slide here. Another argument that people often will say is, if we abolish the death penalty, more people would commit crimes, more people would commit murder. And studies show that actually states with no death penalty have lower homicide rates. The argument or the counter argument, excuse me, is that the death penalty is used too sporadically to actually significantly reduce crime rates in states. Also, criminals don't take into consideration the actions or the consequences for their actions, excuse me. And I think that we could, as a nation, instill a system where we can prosecute criminals with a higher standard, in which that we could see a greater reduction in crime rates. For example, if we were to focus more money, focus more attention into rehabilitation efforts, we could possibly see more of a reduction in crime rates because of the consistency in which we're sentencing criminals. So here's another quote I have from another study about the death penalty having no effect on the reduction of crime rates. Empirically, capital punishment is too infrequent to have a measurable effect on crime rates. Criminologically, the existence and use of the death penalty may not even deter criminals and potential offenders like lawmakers had hoped. So this kind of goes back into what I had mentioned previously, where the death penalty is used too sporadically to have any reduction on crime rates, and it really doesn't deter crime. So if the argument is that the death penalty is deterring criminals, I don't think that it has any correlation to it. Okay. So I spent most of the speech talking about why we should abolish the death penalty. And I want to take this slide to kind of go into what we could do differently as a nation and kind of offer some solutions to the issue here. In the bottom right, you can see a chart of the execution since 1977, I believe, all the way to about 2017, 2008. I don't know if it got cut off, but so what we could do differently as a nation is focus our efforts more on rehabilitation. I think that would positively impact our nation and would allow potentially criminals to positively impact our society as well. And if the argument is to make victims pay for their actions, why not let them continue to grieve and think about their choices and the consequences of their choices? I think we should reform the justice system to have a standard so that we could instill something that could greatly reduce crime rates, because we are able to prosecute criminals with more of a standard. We could also spend less on the death penalty by abolishing it, which would allow the governments to spend more money elsewhere, which would also positively impact our communities. We could have more libraries, parks, better roads, state infrastructure, stuff like that. And here are my closing sentiments. So on average, there's 4 exonerations a year, meaning that on average, there's 4 people on death row where new evidence comes out and the court finds them innocent. So 4 people are being taken off of death row a year. Clearly, there are people being executed by the government who could be innocent. I think as a nation, we should promote rehabilitation efforts and end inhumane and unethical sentences to criminals. And then I've also hyperlinked a link to the National Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty, where you can donate or you can read more about this topic. And then here's also my reference pages. So yeah, that's my speech. Thank you for listening.
That was really good. I was super interested to see the cost. My computer's echoing, sorry, that distracted me. But that's super interesting. I didn't know that it was so expensive to make the death penalty. And if they just brought that back into the prison instead of doing that, I bet you that, or they even gave it to the victims instead, like that could really change a lot of things. You don't benefit from anything just by using the death penalty. So thank you for educating us on that. It was a really good speech.
Really good speech. I really liked how you pointed out the cost of it. And I do agree with you on how they should implement that other cost onto the community, the parks, all that. I didn't realize how much of a difference that is. It was like 137 million, right? And then without the death penalty, it was like 11 million. That's a huge increase. I never really had an opinion about the death penalty, and I honestly, like, I didn't even think they still used it to this day. But yeah, so now I'm aware of it. So I really like your citations. But yeah, good speech.
Yeah, I like how you use visual presentation as well, statistics. You also show that death penalty kind of as also kind of today's history, how it shows how it affects people as well. Which I say similar to Garcia. He says like penalty. I thought penalty was like I thought we already scheduled penalty already, but now I guess to learn as well more of it. I thought so. So yeah, great presentation whatsoever.
Cool, I appreciate it.
I'm gonna be sharing my screen in a second, but give me 1 second. Let me log into my stuff real quick. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let me see. How do I... All right. All right, so my topic, gasoline powered. So my title is gasoline powered cars off the road. So just letting you know, today I'm going to convince you, the audience, why electric powered cars should be permanently replace the gas powered cars as we see on the roads today. So starting off, before I get into the intro, I would want to ask, personally, I have a gas powered car because like I really can't purchase an electric powered car right now, but I was just wondering, do any of you guys have electric powered car or even a hybrid car by any chance? Probably not, right? Okay. So throughout these past years, most people have noticed that we are, or that
You're cutting out a little bit. I don't know if it's for everybody, but
Yeah, he's cutting out for me too a little bit.
type of powered vehicles so we can reduce air pollution. And an effective way to do that is by transferring to electrical powered cars. We breathe in this air every day, right? So we don't want to breathe in some dirty, toxic air. We want to breathe in some nice, clean air, right? So I'm going to explain why and how replacing gas-powered vehicles with electric-powered vehicles will benefit us, and how removing gasoline-powered vehicles and replacing them with another source, for instance, the electric-powered, or even just reducing it to a hybrid, will reduce air pollution. Stopping the use and to no longer accept gasoline-powered vehicles as a main type of transportation, and accepting these electrical cars as a main type of transportation is going to be beneficial for everyone. So one of the biggest reasons why electric powered vehicles are better is that we no longer need to use or to get gasoline anymore, which is pretty obvious, right? But important, in order to have clean air in cities, we have to go electric, stated by Elon Musk himself, the legend. This quote speaks for itself. We need to go electric to make our airs cleaner. Oil mining is extremely bad for our environments, but also the byproduct of oil is really bad also. So, for instance, there is a recent oil spill. I think it was in Huntington Beach. I'm not sure where it was, but it was local. It was in SoCal, and it was extremely bad. There was oil all over the lake or the ocean. I'm not really sure. I didn't look up on that. But yeah, so as you see right here, the oil spill, you see I think that's a seagull, but there's a whole bunch of oil coating the seagull's fur, the feathers, right? So some people might bring up how electric cars require lithium ion batteries, which mining for lithium ion is quote unquote worse than oil mining. In an article, The Paradox of Clean EVs and the Dirty Lithium Mining Business by Christopher McFadden, he states EVs, like anything manufactured, requires raw materials in order to be produced. And some of these materials can come bundled with very serious potential environmental cost. One of the most serious being lithium. So this is to show that there are problems with lithium mining, but also just the gathering of the materials of these type of cars. First off, these batteries do last for approximately 10 years. So in this 10 period year, you won't need to replace your battery or anything like that. You're constantly recharging the battery each time you need fuel, right? And so I have a quote from petroleum products rise environmental red flags even before they are burned. Extracting them from the earth is an energy-intensive process that can damage local ecosystems. Shipping fuels can also consume a lot of energy and creates an occasional environmental disaster such as oil spills, stated by National Geographic. And the article is called The Environmental Impacts of Cars, Explained. This is just to show the effects of the oil, right? Also in the article, fracking versus lithium mining, which is more dangerous than the environment, by Andrew. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that last name, but he states, based on what is currently known, fracking is the most dangerous process than lithium mining. But unfortunately, both seem to be essential to this world today. So at this moment, we know that oil mining is far worse than lithium mining, and as more lithium mining continues, we will eventually find out which is worth in the future. But also, these companies that are making these electrical cars are trying to figure out and improve on this problem. And like I said before, lithium mining is barely just the beginning, right? So the more in depth we go into these into the future years, we'll eventually figure out if oil mining is more dangerous or not than lithium mining. We just don't know yet. We don't have enough information to state that it's worse than that yet. So on the left, it's the car battery, and most models have similar types of batteries, and then that's just like the base of it. And then on the right is obviously the oil mining, the oil drills, right? I couldn't find any lithium ion minings. A lot of the pictures that you search up, they're either like fake photos. Every time I find a picture, they say like it's most of them are like memes, and they're just trying to trying to persuade you to thinking that's how they are. So I couldn't find any reliable images, so I just used the battery. So what stands out is that we no longer need gas, right? Knowing that you are no longer purchasing gas, you are saving basically $5 a gallon with California gas prices. This will lead me into my next point. Electric cars require less expensive and less frequent maintenance than gasoline-powered cars. In an article, Cost and Benefits of Electric Cars versus Conventional Cars, states a 2018 study from the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute found that electric vehicles cost less than half of as much to operate a gas-powered car. The average cost to operate a EV in the United States is $485 per year, while the average cost for a gasoline-powered vehicle is $1,117 per year. This study is a bit old, but nothing has changed between these years. People might bring up how electric cars are really expensive to purchase, and in that case, yes, they are expensive to purchase. In the beginning, when they first started making these electric cars and they have it on the market, they're very like Tesla, right? It's a luxury brand, so they're very expensive. But as the years go on, the companies find cheaper and productive ways to lower the cost. And one of the cheapest electric cars right now on the market is $29,900. You could get a 2021 mini electric hardtop. Supply and contrast and increased demand drove the average price of a new car to $41,044 in July, an all-time high, according to J.D. Power's latest U.S. automotive forecast, stated by Adam Sharpo. $41,000 is way much higher than that cost I showed you before about the mini electric hardtop. And the $41,000 is just the average cost of a brand new car right now, since the pandemic. It brought an increase up into the market due to the dealerships saying there's a delay in the cost and in the products to make these vehicles. And while these vehicles are expensive to purchase at the first, in the long run, you are going to, have cheaper and less maintenance that is required compared to the gas-powered vehicle. Unlike gas-powered, you don't need to constantly get oil changes, and which that's a plus, And our gas prices, it's pretty high up. I think San Diego, we're like almost close to 5 right now. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure though. And then on the right, you have your electric chargers, right? You could have them at your house. Down the street, there's like 3 of them close to me in the public. For the public, you could. The more electric vehicles on the market, the more they're gonna start putting them out. And I'm going to my conclusion. Replacing gasoline-powered vehicles with electric-powered cars will benefit us in different ways. No longer using gas will help with reducing air pollution, but also the cost of electric-powered cars in the long run is more cost-efficient. Permanently removing gasoline-powered vehicles and replacing them with electric-powered vehicles will benefit us. Since air pollution is one of the most devastating pollution types throughout the world, but also oil drilling is bad for our environment and can disturb land and marine ecosystems. And with that, oil spills is being one of the worst forms of pollution stated in the article, the top 10 worst forms of pollution. We need to change this now, and we need to do it fast before it's too late to change. And then, so that's a picture of just air pollution. And then right here, this was during the pandemic, one of the beginnings pandemic when everyone was staying indoors. And the photo on the left was before the pandemic hit. And as you can see, it's like, I don't know if it was filtered, but I remember seeing a lot of news articles about this during this time. And it's very like, the air quality is bad. And then during the pandemic, they went over it again, and then they showed how the air was way much cleaner since all these people were staying indoors and not driving around. Oh, sorry about that. I didn't finish this slide, but this is my petition. My petition. My bad. So sign this petition for the removal of gasoline-powered vehicles. Your signature will help prevent further impacts of climate change. We can't afford to wait for these changes. We must stop the use of gasoline-powered vehicles and move on to electricity, which is already viable as a clean alternative to gasoline. So this link right here, you could sign it. You don't need to pay anything. You just sign your name down, and it will help against this cause. So save our planet now. And then these are my resources. And then, yep. How do I stop sharing? There you go.
That was a really good speech. I've always found that stuff interesting, like using how bad us driving every single day, especially me. I drive a lot, so it would be nice if I knew that I wasn't doing that to our environment. And then the picture that you showed, the last one when we were in the pandemic, just like, because nobody was going anywhere, it would make sense that, but to see like the side-by-side picture of how bad it really is affecting us, and like even like health issues, like having that much pollution, it affects us humans too, as well as our environment. So that was a really good speech. Thank you for educating us on that.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good speech too. 2 things that I really liked about your speech, Josh, was first, I thought your visuals were pretty engaging. I thought it was cool for the audience to see kind of the effects driving gas-powered vehicles, like the side-by-side picture, and then the picture of the bird covered in oil as well. And the second thing I really liked was your call to action at the end. I liked how you clearly stated, like, here's the petition you can sign. No money is involved, just sign the petition. I thought those 2 aspects of your speech went really well.
Yeah, I kind of like your visual presentation, as well as how you say today's versus past of time about gasolines. I possibly didn't know, because I kind of live in California, about the gasolines. I don't have a car, that is, but in the future I probably might agree to you about taking an electric car as well in the future. And yeah, I like all your presentation, how it goes, yeah, how it is and stuff like that.
Thank you, guys.
My name is Joshua Hernandez, and I'll be talking about how kind of cyberbullying kind of affects young teens our times. If you ever feel like you're being the perpetrator of bullying, or ever been, or your peers, friends, family members, anyone else that's relatively close to you in your time, have you ever been bullied in your life though? Because I know it's going to be hard, and I experienced kind of that because I was been bullied in high school as well. Kind of shows how I am also the victim of it as well, how it is, but also as today's history from the COVID-19, it shows that now internet has been improving. However, as in cyberbullying as well, shows kind of how cyberbullying affects us now today in these days. That one of our major findings of today is about psychological effects of like cyberbullying. It says kind of like, I want this out of my head. Like sometimes young teens these days say that I want this to get out of my head. They can't control it. It's kind of affects them kind of a long-term type of way. The long-term type of way shows how like difficult it is, the health, the relationship to try to get away from each other, stuff like that. I got one of my studies says that according to Raskus and Stolz, that in the research they found out that in the research that they found out that research have found out that 31% of victimized students reported being very embarrassed and very upsetting, very extremely upsetting. 19% were very scared, and about 18% were very extremely embarrassed by online. They also found out that repeated acts of threatened bullying happens through the health, development of self-establishment, the contribution to their scores of failure, threatening to the health of the health systems like depression, anxiety. Kind of shows how today like students is going to have a hard time throughout these type of times. So if we got to figure out a way to figure out another major findings of today, another major findings of cyberbullying caused by several emotional problems shows kind of how it kind of lowers self-esteem as well as depression, sort of feeling worthiness. There've been anxiety as well as results of, according to a Toel University worldwide study, found out that teens from 13 to 17 from Harris Interactive found that 85% of middle schools and students in 56% of high schools admit that feeling angry about resulting of cyberbullying. I'm going to share a screen of today showing how it is. Shows how middle schools is about 85% of anger, 37% of hurt, and 18% of scared. As high schools, you see a decrease of it, but still effects of how anger still works, hurting, and how scared it is today during these times of day. Shows kind of how it is right now. And as the next majority of studies found out that cyberbullying also affects physical effects. It also affects how kind of affects us how if we kind of can't control ourselves throughout that time, like our body, our emotions, stuff like that. Kind of makes us fall into desperate of our achievements today, academic achievements as well, our goals in life. Violates others at schools, violence, and possible suicides. That is a harmful way of doing so. As about studies shows that about 32% of victims do not like to go to school because of victimization, and about 34% of schools are quitting schools because of victimization. Schools also affects students' grades. About 41% said they confirmed that they're less active in class. 24% confirmed that schools. 24% confirmed that their school performed and had dropped about 35%, and about also 35% show that the grade has been repeated over a period of time towards victimization of cyberbullying. However, there has been some negative effects of how cyberbullying also affects how physical also affects cyberbullying as well. As you see, a sexual offensive has increased, rumors increase as well, aggressive, harmful markings, harmful names, body, teasers, and even more of it as well. Shows how it is kind of right now as it is, and as of kind of shows that more of us should constantly participate, but also watch our kind of body movements, how we are, shows kind of how he is. And some conclusions about this should be like, how should we fix it? How should we figure out how we cope with it? How we not? Some procedures should be like, we should monitor them. We should, one type of multiple solutions to be counted as we should monitor them. Parents should monitor them, teens should monitor them, schools should be monitoring them. Even maybe having a moderate system to show us how it is today. Yeah, shows how it is today, because cyberbullying can also affect all of us at once during kind of this time as well, through COVID-19 problems and stuff like that. And we should probably do some stuff about the cyberbullying as my presentation today.
That was really good. You were done, right? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say like conclusion, so I was just making sure. You are?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure. I was super scared to cut you off, but that was really good. I really like the statistics with it, because I know that I've like witnessed firsthand cyberbullying with my little sister, because she plays like a lot of games and stuff, and she like thinks that she's alone in this, but it's so common that like people are very bold online. So I like how you brought attention to that. I think that's super important. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I agree with what Lexi said. I thought that your statistics really helped your speech. I also think it's yeah, like a good topic to talk about. I think it's super relevant in today's culture and society. Yeah, so thank you for your speech.
Thank you very much.
Great speech, great visual aids, and I agree with everything. You know, especially how like the younger generation is growing up. Like I see when I pick up my little sisters from elementary school, all these kids, you know, already having iPhones and all this stuff, and already on social media, TikTok, all this. So they're going to experience, you know, cyberbullying more intensive in that upcoming generation, and I think we should, you know, teach them and awareness of, you know, cyberbullying. Yeah, great speech.
Thank you very much.
Cool. So that concludes group one's persuasive speeches. Thank you all for listening.